There are moments in life when a man looks around and finds nothing left. No wealth, no allies, no direction. Only the echoes of what once was and the crushing weight of what is no more. If that is where you are now, I want to speak directly to you. You may believe that rebuilding a life from nothing is impossible, that the damage is too great, that the gap is too wide. But I assure you, it is not. The greatest structures ever built began with bare ground. The strongest men I ever knew began broken. And what separates those who rise again from those who remain in ruin is not luck. It is will. Let me share with you a story, a true one, of a man named Arthur. Arthur had once owned a prosperous carpentry shop in the heart of a thriving town. He was known for his craftsmanship, for the precision of his work, and for the integrity with which he did business. He had apprentices under him, a name that carried respect, and a home filled with warmth and stability. But then came the fire. One spark in the workshop, one overlooked pile of sawdust, and everything he had built was reduced to ash. The shop, the tools, the records, all gone. Insurance was minimal and debts were mounting. And as if that weren't enough, two of his apprentices left town, and his landlord reclaimed the plot. Arthur went from being a respected craftsman to a man with empty hands and a heavier heart. In the months that followed, I saw what hardship can do to a man. I saw him withdraw from the world. He stopped shaving. He avoided the town square. He took small labor jobs, sweeping stables, moving crates, not out of pride, but because it was the only work that asked nothing of his past. One winter evening I found him sitting alone outside the church, shoulders hunched against the wind. "Arthur," I asked, "why have you given up your gift?" He looked at me, eyes tired. "Because it's gone. All of it. My tools, my clients, my place. What's the use of dreaming when you have nothing to build with?" And I said to him what I will say to you now. You still have the hands. And more importantly, you still have the heart. You see, Arthur had mistaken his tools for his identity, his shop for his worth. But what made him a master craftsman was never his workshop. It was his discipline, his patience, and his eye for detail, none of which had burned in the fire. I encouraged him to take one small job, a simple chair for a widow whose own had broken. He borrowed tools. He worked in a borrowed shed, and when she saw the finished piece, she wept. Not because it was beautiful, though it was, but because it had been made with care, with pride. Word spread. One chair became a table. One chair became a cabinet. A cabinet became a new workshop. It took time. It took humility. It took years. But Arthur rebuilt, not just his business, but himself. He learned that starting from nothing doesn't mean starting without value. It means starting with what cannot be destroyed: character, determination, and the courage to begin again. So I ask you, as I asked him, what tools have truly been taken from you? And what strength still lives within you, waiting to be used? Do not wait for everything to be perfect. Rebuilding does not begin with resources. It begins with resolve. And that, my friend, you already have. Let me now introduce you to another soul, Clara. She was once a well-regarded music teacher in the city. Her apartment was modest, but filled with life. Her walls echoed with the sounds of piano keys and laughter. Dozens of children had passed through her care, each learning not just notes and scales, but discipline and expression. But when her mother fell ill, everything changed. Clara left the city to return to her childhood home, a worn, neglected house in a forgotten village. There were no students there, no schools seeking teachers. The house had no proper heating, and the piano, her only instrument, was broken from years of dust and silence. She'd spent nearly her entire savings on medical expenses. And when her mother finally passed, Clara was alone. No job, no money, no reputation, just silence, just grief. I received a letter from her not long after. She wrote, "I feel like my life ended when hers did. I no longer know what I'm supposed to do." Now, this is the kind of moment that can break a person. When the world no longer reflects who you were, and nothing calls out to tell you who to become. But Clara did something few people have the courage to do. She began again. Quietly, slowly. She walked to the village church and asked if she could use their hall to teach, free of charge. There were no instruments, no eager parents, no bright-eyed children. But she stood there each day waiting. At first, only one child came, a boy named Peter who couldn't sit still. He had no sense of rhythm and had never touched a piano. But Clara showed up, every day, with patience, with clarity, with quiet dignity. She used a chalkboard to draw notes. She clapped rhythms by hand. She made music out of memory. By the end of the month, 3 children had joined. By the end of the season, 10. One of the local farmers gave her a broken violin. Clara fixed it with twine and glue. Someone else donated an old keyboard. Bit by bit, the silence began to fade. Music returned, not grand, but real. It took nearly 2 years before Clara earned any income from her teaching again. But by then, something far more valuable had returned, her purpose. She wrote me again. I no longer mourn the life I lost. I'm building one that cannot be taken from me. You see, my friend, rebuilding your life is not about regaining what you lost. It is about creating something better with what you still possess. Clara taught without instruments. She led without students. She began without applause. What sustained her was not comfort or praise, it was commitment. Too many wait until the conditions are perfect, until someone validates their effort, until the pain goes away. But those who truly rebuild do so in the face of discomfort, in the absence of applause, in the silence of uncertainty. And this is the truth I must tell you. The first step forward will never feel strong. It will feel uncertain, small, lonely. But it is still a step, and it matters. Clara's journey proves what I have always believed. When the external world gives you nothing, you must build from the inside out. Discipline is not a tool you acquire when success arrives. It is the tool that carves the path toward it. Character is not the reward for achieving. It is the foundation that allows you to endure the process. And purpose It is not something you wait to find. It is something you choose to honor, even when no one is watching. So if you are standing now in ruins, look not at what has collapsed, but at what remains standing in you. And begin there. Now let me speak to you, not to the version of you the world expects, but to the version of you that is hidden beneath the fatigue, the failure, and the fear. You are not broken. You may be battered. You may be lost. But you are not broken. What lies ahead of you is not a return. It is a rebirth. Too many waste years trying to return to what they once were. They cling to past identities, past comforts, past victories. But life, when it burns everything to the ground, does not offer you a mirror, it offers you a hammer. Not to rebuild what was, but to create what must be. And this is where most people turn back. They wait for permission, for signs, for someone to save them. But no one is coming. And that is not a sentence of despair, it is a call to power. The moment you accept that no one is coming is the moment you reclaim your strength. Because when the rescue is not coming from the outside, it must rise from within. Let me be clear, starting from nothing is not romantic. It is raw. It is lonely. It is hard. But it is also sacred. Because when everything else is stripped away, what remains is your will, your integrity, your discipline, your soul. That is the true ground floor of greatness. When I wrote self-help, I did not write it for the rich or the fortunate. I wrote it for the person with calloused hands and an aching back who still believed they could rise. I wrote it for you. You rebuild your life not through grand gestures, but through consistent action. You rise not by waiting for motivation, but by living from principle. You heal not by erasing the past, but by building something stronger upon its lessons. So let me offer you something simple, but not easy. Wake up early even when no one watches. Do the work even when no one pays you yet. Speak with honesty even when lies are rewarded. Move forward even when you feel unready. Because the moment you begin to act from principle rather than emotion, you begin to rise. Every great life I have studied, every soul I have admired, every legacy that endures, was built not on luck or talent, but on discipline, perseverance, and quiet inner fire. And now the question is not whether you can rebuild. The question is whether you will. Because the raw materials are already within you. Your pain, your memory, your values, your endurance. These are the bricks. Your daily action is the mortar. Start small. Start silent. Start scared. But start. And one day, if you persist, you will look back at this moment not with sorrow, but with pride. Not because it was easy, but because you rebuilt your life from nothing, and no one will ever be able to take that from you. That, my friend, is the beginning of true freedom. And that is where your real story begins.